2 days ago, we began with the following question.
Dear Greg, my 6-year-old and my 8-year-old fight with each other all the time. They argue about everything, and pretty often their arguments degenerate into hitting. I've told them to stop it a million times, yelled at them, and punished them, but they're still hitting each other whenever they get the chance. How do I stop this? It's making me crazy.
The first day I said that your children have been telling you something and you've been missing the message. The second day I said that it's easier to understand what they're saying when you understand what they need, and that their greatest need is for real love. And I said that on the whole you have not loved them unconditionally, because every time you're disappointed and angry at them, they hear you saying loudly, "I don't love you." Then it occurred to you to protest, "Oh, wait a minute, sure, I get mad at my kids sometimes, but I still love them." And that brings us to today. In order to make this point in a memorable way, imagine for a moment that you've come to visit me at my home, and you find me working in the garden. I want to finish what I'm doing, so I give you several bushes and ask you to plant them in another part of the yard, which you agree to do. And let's suppose that you don't know the first thing about gardening. After half an hour or so, I walk over to where you're working and discover that you've done everything wrong. You've planted the bushes in the wrong place, at the wrong depth, you've spaced them incorrectly, you've used the wrong soil, you've even broken several branches as you handled the plants. After laughing a bit, I do a couple of things. First, I thank you for helping me. And second, I apologize for not explaining better what needed to be done. Then we work together until we make it all right. And we have a great time doing it. How do you feel? Probably relieved, for one thing. Despite all the mistakes you made, it's obvious that I'm not irritated at you. In fact, you can feel my concern for your happiness. That's a great feeling. You know, most of us can't even imagine a scene like this, being completely accepted by someone after we've screwed up and inconvenienced them. Virtually all our experience has been that when we make mistakes, people become very judgmental and irritated. Now, imagine the same scene again from the beginning. You come to see me, and again I give you some bushes to plant, and again you do everything wrong. But this time, when I see what you've done, my reaction is quite different. I sigh. I look disappointed. I can hardly contain my irritation. Can't you do anything? I asked you to do just one. I can't believe you. You recognize that tone of voice? How do you feel now? Happy? Hardly. The moment I communicate my disappointment and irritation, you know that my concern is for myself, for what you did to me, and for what you didn't do for me. It's all about me. And in that moment, is there any way in the world that you could feel my unconditional concern for your happiness? Ridiculous. Anger is always selfish, and the effect on you is devastating. That is how our children feel every time we feel disappointed in them or irritated at them. They feel unloved, and the consequences are horrifying. No exaggeration. We may actually think that we hide those feelings from them, but we're just kidding ourselves. The difference between unconditional acceptance and irritation is unmistakable. Every child can feel it. So your children, like virtually every other child on the planet, have heard "I don't love you" from you on many, many occasions, more than you could possibly realize or remember. They do not feel loved unconditionally, and that emptiness and pain affect them more than you can imagine. Now, before you feel either defensive about not loving your children unconditionally or beat yourself up about it, either one, let me hasten to say that there is no reason for you to feel bad here. That's just foolish. I've never met a single parent who gets up in the morning and says to himself or herself, "You know, I'm feeling pretty loved today. I could share that with my children and fill their lives with joy, but nah, heck with them. I'll just keep this love to myself and put them in therapy for the rest of their lives." No parent does that, including you. You have loved your children as well as you could, But the fact is, you couldn't give them what you didn't have yourself. We can't give what we ain't got. The fact that you become irritated at them is absolute proof that you don't have enough real love in your own life, a condition that has very likely existed from the time you were a young child yourself. So, no need to feel guilty. But you do need to recognize the lack of real love in your children's lives, because that is the cause of the behavior you're describing. When children don't feel loved, they feel empty and afraid. And then they respond with all the energy they have to eliminate those terrible feelings. They respond with what I call getting and protecting behaviors, which we've discussed in the Essentials of Real Love seminar and in the book, Real Love. One of those behaviors is attacking, and that's what your children are doing when they fight with each other. They attack each other to protect themselves, and because when they're angry and otherwise attacking the other person, they briefly feel a little stronger and less helpless. They feel a sense of power, one of the forms of imitation love. Now, when they're in the middle of attacking each other, what do you tend to do? You charge into the room and yell at them to stop it. That's hysterical on at least 3 levels. First, these 2 children are drowning, a metaphor we first discussed in the Essentials of Real Love seminar. When people don't feel loved, it's like they're drowning, and in that condition, they do whatever it takes to keep their heads above water. They use getting and protecting behaviors to do that, to keep their heads above water emotionally. Then, in the middle of their drowning, you come into the room and tell them to simply stop doing the only thing that has ever helped them keep from going underwater. It's insane. If they knew a better way to keep their heads above water, they'd be doing it. Second, it's amazingly ironic that when they're in the middle of attacking each other, you try to get them to stop attacking by doing what? Attacking them. That's pretty crazy. And, in your defense, pretty common, almost universal. And third, where did they learn attacking in the first place? From you. It's not your words that your children tend to follow. It's your example. And they see you angry, a form of attacking, quite a lot. It's pretty funny that parents often say things like, "You two stop it and be nice to each other." I mean, what kind of example is that to follow? Children who feel unloved are right at the edge of coping all the time. In that condition, it takes almost nothing to push them over the edge. A brother or sister taking a toy from them, a change in the schedule for the day, being tired or sick, any disappointment or inconvenience. All of our children's behaviors that we find exasperating, anger, defiance, fighting with their siblings, withdrawal, lying, lack of responsibility, and so on, are nothing more than reactions to the emptiness and fear in their lives. Nothing more than reactions to not feeling a sufficient supply of the one thing, real love, that is as essential to their emotional health as air, water, and food are to their physical well-being. So, now you understand the cause of your children's behavior. The next big question is, what can you do about it? It's always about real love. And tomorrow, we'll talk about exactly how you can implement that with your 6 and 8-year-olds.